Jessica Blue, thank you so much for being here to join us for the VO Dojo 21 questions.
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Okay, so first, what is your one word check in today? If you had to distill this moment in time for you into one word, what would you say?
Grateful.
Grateful. Grateful. Good,
I get to
good.
do what I love. And yeah, I had a session earlier today. And yeah, it's just very grateful that I get to do what I love and live in a city that I love and grateful. Yeah.
Hey, cool. Where are you from?
I'm originally from Northern California, the Bay
Hmm.
Area, a little town called Martinez in the East Bay.
Hmm.
So I am a native California, just not native to LA.
Yeah, yeah. And where do you live now?
I am in LA in North Hollywood area,
North
Sherman
Hollywood.
Oaks, Studio City area.
Yeah, nice, nice, nice.
Mhm.
Um, what would we know your voice from?
Probably wouldn't. um,
Wouldn't we know your voice from?
I don't. I'm not that famous as far as voice acting goes. Most of what I have done um, is a lot of e-learning type stuff for corporations and
Hmm. Any
learning videos, things
corporations we
like
might
that.
know?
Um, Whole Foods.
I've
Um,
heard of them.
Maybe that's Big Five Sporting Goods.
Yeah,
A few others I can't think of off the top of my head, but
yeah.
um, that's primarily what I've been doing. But I've not been doing as much voiceover lately, unless it's dubbing. So I've been in a
Uh-huh.
few dubs. Most recently, what was I think it was Super Sex on
Hmm.
Netflix. I'm a couple of characters in that, and a lot of other ones. But yeah, I don't have like a major role or a character that
Hmm.
I'm known for. I do kind of like a journeyman actor where I do just like a little bit of everything, and
Hmm.
whatever they give me, I'll do it. So
Hmm. Yeah, and dubbing is sort of something that's become your area of expertise, would you say? Is that, can you tell us a
I
little bit about that?
say so, yes. I actually started out several years ago with a dear friend of mine who was directing a dub, and he asked me to help him out just to kind of keep the takes organized and everything. We sort of
Hmm.
trained ourselves on the whole world of dubbing, and I learned the whole process of it, learned how to adapt scripts. So, from taking
Hmm.
a foreign language script, it gets translated into English, and then the adapter comes in and makes it sound conversational, makes it match lip flaps on
Hmm.
screen. And very, very critical, important step in the whole dubbing process is the adaptation. And then just watching him work, and I've already kind of had developed a director's ear. And so I ended up co-directing a couple of projects with him, and now I am directing on my own
Hmm.
several English dub projects, mostly live action. I've worked on a couple of animation or yeah, animation, I guess.
Hmm.
One involved puppets, so I don't know what that
Oh,
is. Or live action, but
not
with
quite
puppets, I don't know.
live, not quite
It's a little
drawn.
weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. But nowadays, acting is sort of taken a back seat. I still do it, if friends or whatever need me, or I
Mm-hmm.
book something, absolutely. But for the most part, I'm focused on directing, adapting, and casting for English dubs, live
Oh,
action.
wow.
Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. And how long have you been on your voiceover journey?
Oh
Even into
gosh.
this evolution of directing voiceover. Yeah.
Um, let's just say I started training in 2001.
Okay. So a wee bit.
I've
A
been doing
wee
it.
bit.
I've been doing it
Yeah.
for a minute. Yeah, I think I got my first agent in 2006 or 2007, I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember. It's so long ago. It's
Yeah.
a lifetime ago. Ooh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And this might be a different answer, but who is your current team? And I'll let you define that. That might be your representation. That might be who gets you through the day, who's working with you at the dubbing company. Like, Who's your current team? One of the things of the VO Dojo is that is at the heart of everything that we do is it's always just you and you never do it alone. So I
Correct.
always like to ask, like, so what do you define as your team?
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I would say my team, it's very small, but
Mm-hmm.
very important. One is the friend who had hired me on that first dubbing thing. He's like
Mm-hmm.
my bestie, travel partner, best friend, mentor, all of that stuff. He's definitely on the team.
Mm-hmm.
And then my other bestie friend I've known for over 20 years, she's also on the team because she's another person that I can just bounce things off of, get
Mm-hmm.
another ear, have a shoulder to cry on, to
Mm-hmm.
bitch to, vent to, whatever I need. Um, so those are probably like the top two people on my team. There's a
Mm-hmm.
few other people that I have that are super important and that I tend to lean on here and there, but I keep it small group of
Mm-hmm.
people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. Um, always like to know what is your setup? What is your tech setup? What is your recording
My
setup?
tech setup. I actually built my booth from scratch in 2005, I think.
Wow.
No, 2007. 2007. Literally went down to Home Depot, got a few 4x8 um, plywood, sheets of
Mm-hmm.
plywood, um, cut it together, had them cut out one piece so there was a door, and I put hinges on it, put hinges on the whole thing, put the roof on it, got egg crate foam, put that all in the side of it, covered it all in canvas. So that's my ghetto do it yourself booth, but it's worked for sessions. I've done dubbing
Yep.
sessions out of it, I've done other sessions. So it sounds pretty good. It's moved with me 3 times, so big takedown, and it's relatively easy to take down and set up. And inside, I have a Focusrite Scarlett preamp.
Mm-hmm.
I have a monitor in there, and my laptop is outside of the
Mm-hmm.
booth. And I use Adobe Audition on my MacBook Pro. And outside of my booth, I have my laptop, and then I have another monitor screen for when I'm doing adapting, so I can have a double screen,
Mm-hmm.
so I can
Mm-hmm.
have the video bigger because I need to see people's mouths moving and whatnot. So I use that bigger screen in the background. And then I
Mm-hmm.
have my microphone is a 416 Sennheiser shotgun.
Awesome. Good, good, good. I always like to let people know that everyone
Yeah.
has their own thing. It might be fancy, might not be fancy, and
Yep.
it's all good.
Oh,
Yeah.
I started out in the closet with coats and clothes as my sound dampener and a little crappy plug-in microphone, and I was
Hmm.
booking off that. And I remember going into a class. This was up in Northern California, and the instructor, who was an LA agent at the time, he was listening. We had to record something at home and send it in, and he was going to critique it in the class. And he gets to mine and he's listening, and I sound like I'm in the bottom of a toilet, just totally like, it sounded horrible. But the acting was good. And he looks at me, he's like, "What is this crap? You've booked on this? If you clean up your if you get a better setup and you get a better mic or whatever, or better soundproofing, you are gonna like book like left and right. Because if you're already booking and it sounds like this, oh, okay." And that's when I decided, okay, maybe I should get an actual booth. And that's when I went and did my
Oh, wow, wow, wow. Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's a good segue to the next question. What's your voiceover origin story? How did you get started?
my origin story. Okay, so I grew up watching Bugs Bunny and Warner Brothers
Hmm.
cartoons. Love me some Saturday morning cartoons. And I always thought, wouldn't it be cool to be a cartoon, be in that world? Because you can do all these cool things. You can die and come back to life. You could be whoever you want. You could fly. You could breathe underwater. Like all this stuff. It was just so fantastical to me. And I was very much a daydreamer and just daydreaming about everything. And so I always thought it'd be very cool to be a cartoon or be in that world. And it wasn't until many, many, many years later, in my mid 20s, that my then husband, ex-husband now, heard this woman talking on the radio about voiceover, and she had a school up in Sausalito. And he said, "You should look into this and think about doing this. I'm like, what are you talking about? And I listened, and she had this like finding your voice intro class to take to see what was this VO business was all about. Took that and I was hook, line, and sinker. I'm like, oh my God, this is how I can like be theatrical and do acting, but not be on stage, because I was also very shy. Back in the day, I didn't want to be in the spotlight. I was much more of an observer of things. And so to be able to be hidden where nobody could see me. And even I remember in my early days of training, I would literally take the mic stand and bring it all the way up so it would block my face. So whoever on the other side of the glass couldn't see me, because I was like that shy, you know? But then I started training and learning about it at that school, and found out, you know, being a character or being, you know, a cartoon, that's animation, and it was very, very competitive back then, and most of it was done in LA. And so I thought, oh, this is like really, really challenging and hard. And at that time I had no intention, no desire to move to LA. I was perfectly content being up in the Bay Area. And so I kind of switched gears and focused on commercial and narration. Did some video games as well, kind of kept my toe in the water as far as character work goes. Because there were, at the time too, there were a lot of video game companies up in the Bay Area. And so, yeah, after that, my core group of people, we had a voiceover workout group. I had actually a couple of different workout groups. And one by one, we just started making the move to LA. And I kept coming down to visit. And there was just one trip where most of the time I was just like, oh, I can't wait to go home. I can't wait to go home. And one trip I'm like, I don't want to go home. I think I am. And that's kind of when it just like clicked. I'm like, okay, well, let's figure out what do I got to do to make this all happen. Because also at the time I was working a full-time job for the electric company. And dying a slow death at that place. And so it was a little rough to get out of that, the golden handcuffs, if you will, because they paid me very well. And then, yeah, to just pick up everything and go. And my whole life was up there. But yes, I had a core group of people that I knew down here, which was fantastic and very, very helpful to have that coming here for the first time. But yeah, and then when I got down here, just started plugging along, kept making connections, taking classes with people, got an agent.
Who was your first agent?
My first agent was actually up in NorCal. It was with Stars.
Oh, Stars. Yeah. And who was your first LA agent?
First LA agent was with Abrams, who is no longer. And now, and now I'm kind of a freebie in LA. I don't have an LA agent anymore. Because again, too, once I started directing more of the English dubs, did not leave a lot of time to do auditions. Also, I got to be very, very picky about the auditions that I even was submitting for. When I still get auditions from Stars and some other areas, but I'm super picky about them because I know that there's so many other people that are going to be way better at this than me, and I'd rather them have the shot. And two, when I'm in production, my schedule is nonstop 9 to 6, sometimes 7. And then when I get home, I'm still working on a few things here and there. So I am spent and then to get the energy to be able to do an audition. No. So I'm super, super picky about the auditions that I do submit for. So
your heart of your voiceover heart has found another totally related outlet. That's really cool. That it's morphed.
And I love it. I love directing. I kind of like it better than acting. I still like to get behind the other side of the mic and actually do some acting, but I really, really love working with actors and getting those awesome performances out of them. It's super fun.
Yeah. We'll have to invite you to come to a fight club too. That'll be really exciting as well. Cool. What would you say the 3 top ingredients to your success have been?
Ooh, 3 top ingredients. Having a support system in place, which is my team, as you mentioned earlier. Always coming back to why my why am I doing this? Just
Mm-hmm.
this because that also keeps me grounded and moving forward. And
Mm-hmm.
also don't be afraid to take risks because without risk there's no reward. And sometimes you got to take that leap of faith, not knowing what's going to happen, but you just
Mm-hmm.
go for it, and some magical things actually do happen. Maybe not what you thought, but maybe even better than what you thought.
Yeah.
And actually, the fourth thing is like, don't have any expectations, or keep your expectations super low, because when you
Mm.
expect things to go a certain way, I mean, if you had told me 10 years ago I'd be directing, I would have laughed you. uh, I would never have thought a million years ago that I would be where I am today, but all the things led me here from there.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, yeah, don't ever,
Yeah, those are
don't,
those are great things to have in your cupboard. That's
yeah.
good. Um, what if you have one, or if you think in these way, what was your big break? When did you know, like, oh, I'm doing this, or was there a moment? Um,
Big break. Mm, I mean, big break in the sense of really knowing this is what I wanted to do. And if I could do it full time would be amazing, was when I booked a session. I was in San Francisco working at the day job, snuck
mhm.
out because I booked something that was down in Hunters Point or something. And I'm in downtown, like on Market Street in San Francisco. And snuck out on my lunch and ran to the session, did the session. And man, when I came out of that session, I was on cloud nine. I had such a fun
Mm.
time. And it was so great. Had a good rapport with the director. He loved everything that I did. And I literally on cloud nine. And I remember walking back to my car or the train or whatever and just think, oh my God, if I could do this all day, like full time, all these things, like, oh my gosh, this would be amazing. And so that was the moment when I thought, okay, I've made it, like this is what I want to do. And then it
Right.
was a matter of like getting my ducks in a row to make it actually
Yeah.
happen and not be, a hobby or a something to keep my sanity in the doldrums of the 9 to 5 job.
Hmm.
Um, but honestly, I don't necessarily think that I have a another big break moment, or I've made it
Yeah, no,
moment.
that's a beautiful like moment where like, ah, this is it.
Yeah, yeah,
That's a really powerful thing to share,
yeah,
right? It differentiated the time before that was something, and then the time after that was something.
yeah, yeah. Because that also was a special moment for me because it was one of my first like in-person sessions,
Hmm.
and learned a lot on that one too.
Hmm.
But I mean, it was for this will take you back in the day. I think it was for Palm Pilot or something. Yeah, that's going back a minute. Old technology for all you youngsters out there. Totally dating myself right now, but um,
Or a gramophone.
right? Yeah, that was good.
Mhm.
That was good though.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Now, how long from starting VO to making it your full-time living? How long? I always think this is a fascinating question, because I think as people begin the journey, they're like, yeah, 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 and they don't realize that it is starting a new business requires like doing old business while you're starting a new
Yes.
business. So, and sometimes it happens faster. Sometimes you get that thing that you're like, I cannot do that anymore, but you can't quite yet. You know it, and it's done in that way, but like, so I think it's always great for everyone to hear wherever they are on their journey, that
Yeah.
sometimes it takes a little bit. It takes a little bit to make this what you do for a living. So what was your experience?
It took me quite a long time actually
Mm-hmm.
because I had the full-time job that was the golden handcuffs, keeping me
Mm-hmm.
very happy financially, shall we say, but not happy every other way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, and I started taking classes in like 99, 2000 and
Mm-hmm.
training and everything. And um, learning, working the full time job. And I am also in awe of people that still have their full time jobs and
Mm-hmm.
aspire to ditch the day job and do full time voiceover full time because it's not easy. Been there, I know. Um, I always thought it wasn't until later on, probably about 10 years into, no, I started in 2001 at PG&E, and it was probably about 5 years in. And so I had been training voiceover for the whole time that I was at
Mm-hmm.
another career. And that is actually what kept me sane in that job, because it was a nightmare dealing with attorneys and whatnot. And I think it was probably about around 2009, 2010. I want to say that's when I thought, I don't know how much longer I can do this job for. It is killing me slowly. I was a manager at the time as well, so constantly having to do performance reviews and being forced to basically give my employees a pittance of a raise and
Mm.
forcing people into boxes that they didn't belong in just because they had this threshold of only so many people can be high performing and so many people can be low performing. There ought to be
Mm.
some people low performing, even though everybody was great. And why should I punish someone?
Oh, wow.
It was a nightmare. Did not like it. So I got to this point where I told myself, I can't do this anymore. If I have to do another performance review, I'm gonna pull my brains
Mm-hmm.
out. And so it was around 20, 2010, I want to say,
Mm-hmm.
2011. I kept coming down because I was coming down, meeting with friends because we were pitching an idea for an animated show.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd come back home, I'd tell my dad about it. And my dad, mind you, he had had a stroke in 2005, and I kind of was his caretaker, but I'd come home, tell him all about it. And there's one day he said, "You belong in LA. You should move down there." I'm like, "I can't move. Hello, I gotta take care of
Mm-hmm.
you. Who's gonna take care of you? It's on me." Like,
Mm-hmm.
no, it's like, your sister can do it. You need to go. This is your calling. This is where
Wow.
you need to be. I'm
Wow.
like, what? So that was a pivotal moment in my VO journey, because that he just gave me permission to go do my dream, follow my dream and do it.
Wow. I just got a shiver.
Yeah,
That's cool.
I got goosebumps every time I say it. I get goosebumps because, like, I love you, Dad.
Mm-hmm.
And so, granted, now that was like, I don't know, 2010, 2011. It took me a couple of years to get my ducks in a row and everything. And so I finally decided around 2013 that this is it. This is my last time. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not doing performance reviews ever again after this. And
Mm-hmm.
so I left the company in 2013 and I moved down to LA in 2013. So,
Wow.
so what, 13 years, 12, 13
Yeah.
years it took
Yeah.
me to go from full time and ditch the daytime job. And when I came down here too, I had no plan B. I had no
Mm-hmm.
other job lined up. I had no backup plan, nothing. It was just, we were going to sell the show. I was going to get an agent here, voiceover full time, and rock it. And none of that happened because 4 days after I moved here, my father passed away, which
Oh,
was
honey.
crazy. And that just put me on this
Yeah.
crazy emotional roller coaster. All my auditions sucked because obviously I was grieving. I was not in a great place
Yeah.
to perform and be an actor. So it
Mm-hmm.
took me about a year
Oh, wow.
to get back on the hump of things. And but somehow in the midst of that, I landed Abrams as my agent and
Mm-hmm.
continued to try to get back into the saddle and shifted some things around and finally got back on track and started booking some stuff and working. And yeah, but it took a minute for me.
Yeah.
Not
No,
overnight.
knowing what you know now, would you, I mean, it sounds like it all worked out just as it would. Would you have done something differently in knowing what you know now, or is it just that that's the time that it took? I think everybody's journey is like, exactly as it is, but it's interesting because you were talking about one of your mantras is or success ingredients is taking a risk and moving to and I mean I know I moved here from Chicago and I was like, what are we doing? It's like moving
Mhm.
to another planet. Okay. But yeah, just interesting to in retrospect, would you have done something differently?
I mean, honestly, the only thing I could think that I might have done differently is left sooner, quit the
Right,
job
that's
sooner, and
yeah,
not stayed there for another year. But again, I was trying to get things financially, and also I was still in the middle of taking care of my dad, and
yeah,
it,
it's
it
so
was a
hard.
lot
Yeah.
on my
Mhm.
plate, and so I mean, I don't even know what would have happened had I gone earlier. But honestly, I believe everything happens for a reason.
I
Everything
think
happens in the
so.
time that it happens, and it's
Mhm.
all done on purpose, and it worked out. So other than that, no, I probably wouldn't have
Yeah,
changed a thing because
yeah.
I'm here where I'm here at, and it's
Mhm.
grand. Yeah,
Yeah, that's powerful. Thank you for sharing all of that.
yeah,
It's a lot. Yeah, one of the things we say at the dojo is that it's a great way to make a living, and then it becomes a way of life. And
yeah.
I just said this to I just said this to the group of people who are um, you know part of our full program is called Mystery to Mastery, and there's black belts. Now you're ready. Now your work
Nice.
begins. But the whole thing about how we do things is like, yeah, when this becomes your way of life, you are living that you are living and you are doing your voiceover career, and life happens.
Hmm.
People get sick, people die, things happen, and you have to live that and keep your voiceover going. And it happens, and then you get back to it. You create the through line, you get
Hmm.
back to it.
Hmm.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
and that also is like, again, going back to my why. Why am I
Mm,
doing? Why did I
yes,
move here?
yes,
Why voiceover? What? Why? So that helped me get back to being grounded and back on
yeah.
doing
So
what I do.
powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are you proudest of in your voiceover career?
Ooh. I think what I'm proudest of is that I'm always willing to try new things.
Mm-hmm.
I don't I kind of like not staying in my comfort zone. I mean,
Uh-huh.
trust me, comfort zone is very comfy. There'll be some comfiness, but getting out of my comfort zone and taking those risks and doing something different, learning something different, something new, I think um, just always willing to be curious,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
try new things, and whether or not they work out, who cares? At least I said I
Mm-hmm.
did it. I can say that I did it and tried it. Um, and again, you never know what beautiful things
Mm-hmm.
gonna happen out of craziness. So yeah, I think maybe that.
I love that. That's beautiful. Yeah. Yeah. What's your biggest fear or challenge?
My
Your
biggest
voiceover
fear,
career.
my biggest fear right now is that dubbing is gonna go away, and I don't know what the heck I'm gonna do after that.
Mm-hmm.
um,
Interesting. Yeah.
just partly from AI stuff, all that
Mm-hmm.
talk about AI, but also just because the studios these days, everything comes down to money and doing more for less, and they're paying less to do the work, and they're paying
Mm-hmm.
newer, more inexperienced people to do the work and paying them less because they can, which means it's going to put me out of a job.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my biggest fear right now, is wondering what the heck am I gonna do when I grow up? Because I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. I don't
Yeah.
know. Yeah.
Interesting. Good for, yeah, it's a true thing. There's a
Yeah.
lot of, and then that goes back to the why and the
Mhm.
existential, existential questions. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's been a weird couple of years here in LA, especially
Hmm.
because of the strike. It started with the
That's right.
strike.
Yeah.
And that was a huge slowdown of work, even though technically dubbing was not considered struck work. So I could have still, I did still work some things,
Hmm.
and other productions were going on, but they were very few and far between, because for whatever reason, most of the studios, I don't know if they were holding their cards close to the vest, and or not wanting to start certain things because or fear of, if how long it was going to extend, or something else regarding the contracts that was up for negotiation was going to impact dubbing. I don't know what, but there was not a lot of work going on. And then when the strike ended, everybody thought, oh, it's going to go back to normal. No, it's been crickets. It's like, what is happening? And partly for that, I think it's also with the other IATSE potential strike looming. A lot of studios don't want to start a production and then have to stop it because of these other people going on strike. And so again, it's just been, I've been sending out notes to various studios saying, hey, I'm available. I'm like, yeah, it's just been really slow right now. So all the studios, Amazon, HBO, Netflix, Hulu, they're all just kind of, I don't know, slowing things down and whatnot. I mean, the content's there. There's so much content out there, especially for dubbing, but it's just now starting to pick up a little bit. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that it starts getting more and more, and it's going to get busy. Because for a couple of years there, I was like nonstop back-to-back projects. I was complaining. It's like, man, I need a vacation, and now I'm like,
not careful.
Like a year-long vacation. I need some work.
Right.
Mom's got to pay the rent.
Yeah. Would you say you're an introvert or an extrovert?
Love this question. I'm an what is it? An introverted extrovert. I'm an introvert at heart. I'm very much, again, observer, sit in the back of the classroom, watch everything, listen, look, learn. But I can be an extrovert in certain situations, in front of certain people. Yes, you can put me on a stage and I can speak and entertain and do all that stuff, but I'm at home on the couch, couch potato zone. That's where my heart lies. I'm much more of a stay-at-home body kind of person versus going out on the town. So
I think it's always a fascinating thing for everybody to know, because everybody's on somewhere on the spectrum, and I think this work, particularly if you're an extrovert, you need to be cool sitting alone in your closet or your booth, sitting alone in a dark box for a long time.
Which is fine with me. I'm good with that.
Exactly. And when you like that, you do need to go out and meet the people and talk to the people and be out in the world. So it really requires that wherever you are, you kind of come to some middle place that works.
I know. I feel like too, with COVID, it was interesting to see the difference in certain people that are extroverts were dying because they didn't have social interaction anymore, live and in person. It was all this on Zoom. And for me, I'm like, I am so good. I'm a happy little camper. I'm in my element. This is great. I don't have to see anybody. I don't have to talk to anybody. But then fast forward to, okay, COVID's, all the restrictions have lifted and you can go out. I had to almost relearn how to socialize and figure out, like, how do I talk to people? I forgot how to. I was already, a wallflower to a certain extent. Now I'm like, oh my God, how do we do this? It's so awkward and weird. And there's still moments where I'm just like, I don't know how to behave.
I know you're not alone there.
I know I'm not.
If you could do voiceover from anywhere in the world, where would it be?
Oh my gosh, that's a tough one because I love to travel. I mean, I was in Bora Bora last year, and we were talking about, oh man, we could build a recording studio somewhere here on an island
on stilts.
Do stuff from here and be in paradise.
Lapa Studios.
I could do that. Remote, patch me in. Yes, please.
Bora Bora. Excellent. Love it. That's a good answer. What would you say your VO motto is? I know we had some good ingredients that had motto-like qualities to them. But if you had to put it above your coat of arms, what would you put?
Oh, I do have a phrase in my booth, and now I can't remember. It's something about persistence. But also, like, never say never.
Never say never. I love it. Yeah.
I mean, because again, I was just talking to a friend the other day about how I've kind of been in this weird funk because of work and everything being so
Mhm.
slow. But yet still grateful that I have this life. I'm doing what I love to do, and I'm at where I'm at, because there's a lot of people that look and say, God, I want what she has. I want her life. I want to be there. And so I don't want to forget that ever, that
Mhm.
I used to be
Mhm.
that person looking at someone else saying, I want that.
Right.
And now I have that. So definitely gratitude is huge. But never say never, because you never know where you're going to end up. You never know what's going to happen. Um, Take that risk, because you never know what it's going to turn out to be. Because the contact that you made today might turn into a job in 6 months.
Mhm.
You don't know that.
Right.
So always, putting yourself out there and just go for it. Never say never.
Yeah. Fantastic. Now, I know you're not doing voiceover on a daily basis as much as you used to, but what is a typical day in a life of being a dubbing director? Like when you have when you're busy or when you're working on projects, what is the rhythm of a typical day?
It's depends on where we are in the stage of production, but
Mhm.
in the early stages, I will have had a kickoff meeting with the studio and the adapters and the casting and everything, and figuring out, am I doing the casting, or is the studio doing the casting? I have to watch all of the episodes. If it's an episodic show, I have to watch all the episodes or watch the movie. If it's a film.
Mhm.
um, and usually I watch it at least twice. One, just to see what the story is about, and then the second time to go through and really understand the characters and listen for their
Mhm.
voices, especially if I'm casting it, to see like what actor do I know would be great for that role,
Mhm.
because their voice, I have to believe it's coming out of that face that I'm
Mhm.
seeing,
Mhm.
and I know that they also need to be a great actor to pull off that performance of that character. Um, so I might be going through and listening to demos of people, making suggestions. If I am not, like on this project I'm about to start, I'm not the primary casting. They have someone who's doing the main heavy lifting of the casting, but I'm still going through and reviewing their suggestions, because sometimes the client wants to approve certain roles, usually the leads, and so we have to make a recommendation, top 3, top 5, and so I'll go through and listen to what the casting person is, and I'll
Mhm.
choose my top 3, top 5. So listening to demos, going through that, watching the show. If there's a chance that, if time involved, we get the adaptation
Mhm.
before we start recording, I will go through and review the adaptation to make sure that it makes sense. It
Mhm.
sounds good. It's not clunky. And 9 times out of 10, there's not enough time to do that. When there
Mhm.
is time, it's really great, because that saves time in the booth recording.
Mhm.
Have to make changes on the fly, which we always have to do.
Mhm.
Um, and then once we're in actual recording mode, I'm going into the studio from 9 to 6, full
Wow.
day, back to back sessions. And then when I come home, it's either review more casting if I need to, or watch
Mhm.
another episode if I need to, or just kind of keep tabs on what's going on and try to eat something and get some sleep for the next day. Rinse and repeat. And it's that way for a couple of months, depending on the project.
Well, a couple months, yeah. Well, that's
Yeah,
intense.
if it's an episodic, yeah, this one, it's gonna go through September. Starts in a couple of
Wow.
weeks, go through September. If it's a film, films are shorter. They're maybe 2 or 3 weeks, depending on the length of the
Mhm.
film and
Mhm.
how big the cast is. But episodics take a long time to do.
Wow. Yeah, I
Yeah.
can see why there's not much, even if you got up early in that scenario to do your auditions, when would you do the sessions? When would you do the things that came in? I mean, I know yesterday afternoon I like, oh, 7 things due before 5. Okay, how am I going to do this? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, and
Excellent.
there's still sometimes I get auditions from my agents like, we need a quick turnaround, before if I'm in the studio, there's no way I can't. I'm
Mm-hmm.
recording. I can't take a break and, excuse me, let me go and do this.
One moment.
I'll be
One
right
moment,
back.
please.
No, it's not gonna happen. So that's also kind of why I ended up getting more picky and
Hmm.
choosy about what I do audition for. So
Yeah. Yeah. And last question, knowing what you do now, what would you say to yourself at the beginning of your career?
Don't give up. Do
Mm-hmm.
not give up because the rewards are so much greater than you ever thought possible, than
Mm-hmm.
you ever thought you were going to get. Everything that you've achieved is so much more than you originally thought.
Wow.
Just the doors that have been opened for you, the connections and contacts and relationships you've made and built and fostered, amazing, incredible, life
Mm-hmm.
changing, and wouldn't change it for the world.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's what I like to say to Dojo students, like, you guys, you're living your origin story right now. This is your origin
Yep,
story. So yeah,
100%.
it's just the beginning. So
Yep. Day
yeah.
one. Day one.
Yeah. Well, Jessica, thank you so much for these fabulous answers. I got shivers on many of them. So
Thanks.
that means it's really from the heart and really, really true blue, I guess
Free
we
blue. That's
so so looking forward to having you join us for Ask the Sensei.
game.
And yeah, we'll carry on and answer more questions that people have. So thank you so
Sounds good.
much.
You are very welcome. I appreciate it. Thanks again for having me.